I'm Corey Rogie with GI Sportz, and here we're going to go over the Empire HaloToo. This is a clamshell that I've already pre-cut, make it a little bit easier for the unboxing. We'll go ahead and remove the loader. In the package, you get the loader, and on the inside of the loader, we tucked in your instruction manual, okay? So you have your instruction manual here. Some of the cool features about the HaloToo. It's sound activated, which is kind of nice. It's only going to start spinning when you start firing your gun. You do have the rip drive on the bottom here, you know, just in case you get a fat paintball and it gets jammed in the loader, or you know, somebody sticks a quarter in there, whatever. You can continue to spin that and feed your paint. Another cool feature is on the bottom side of the loader, we have this easy access door. So you just kind of push this spring-loaded lid there, just kind of pull that back, and then we're going to set that down off to the side. A little foam block in here, and then we got your battery pack. Okay, takes 4 AA batteries, which I have here. We'll go ahead and install those for you. Make sure they're in place. Go ahead and install. Make sure you install it the right direction there. Go ahead and install the battery cable and tuck it back in there. Go ahead and put your foam block back in just to kind of keep your battery pack from rattling around. And then from there, what we're going to do is we are going to reinstall that battery cover, just like so. Go ahead and turn it on. Okay, so as soon as you turn it on, it will actually spin just real quick, just to kind of preload it. But after that, and you can also change the sound sensitivity levels. Okay, so say if you have a really quiet gun, you can change that sound sensitivity level. Green LED light indicating that we have good batteries. Your batteries start to go low. That LED indicator will turn red. All right. Like I said before, 4 AA batteries, and this is another one of those timeless designs. I mean, it's a great loading system. Works really well. The price point you really can't beat. It's just a good loader. Now we'll just go ahead and I'll break it down for you, show you how to take it apart, and show you how to clean it. So we'll first start off by pushing and holding the power button. It'll turn red. We'll go ahead and shut that off. From there, we'll remove our batteries. Move that foam block. Make sure you save that. Like I said, it keeps that battery pack from rattling around inside there. Go ahead and disconnect your battery pack. We'll set that off to the side. Here, I am going to use a Phillips head screwdriver. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws that hold that together. 7 if you include this right here that holds the battery cover in place. So here we're going to start removing some of the screws here that hold the loader together. And these are actually different length screws, so you do want to keep them together. I usually just leave them in the part that they're coming out of. Let's go ahead and loosen up these screws. You also want to be careful when you're loosening up your screws, because there is a receiver nut on the back side of the loader, and you always run the risk of it just kind of falling out of place because you're taking a screw out, right? So just kind of be mindful of that when you take it apart. And then just go ahead and pull up on the shell here. And if you feel anything that's kind of holding you back, just go back through with your screwdriver and just hit that screw again. Just make sure you got it fully loosened up. This is our right-hand side of the shell here. Me personally, I always like to leave the screws in it, okay? Like I said, they are different lengths. So if you get them mixed up, which you never will unless you take the screws completely out, just leave them in the shell, just like that. Really simple. Go ahead and set that shell off to the side here. All right. There's one other part that I want you to be mindful of whenever you're taking your HaloToo apart, is this little nut that's in the front side here that holds your battery cover screw. All right, so if you're, jolting around, that falls out, it's on the floor, you can't find it, so just kind of be mindful of that when you take that apart. Okay, then we have our lid. So lid is spring loaded, and you have your pin for the lid. Now that spring will usually always stay in the left-hand side of the loader, and I just leave it. I just leave it behind. When we go to reinstall the lid, it makes it easier on you. You don't have to struggle with it. As far as the internals go here, it's pretty straightforward. We have our tray, obviously the feed chute. You have your board with the sound sensor on it. And then you have your battery cable. Now some of these other wires, they wrap around and go to the motor on the back side there. I mean, there's really no reason to take this apart. Like, you can if you want to, but it's kind of overkill. I mean, you just want to clean out whatever dirt, debris, paint, whatever you have in there, right? So you just go through there with a, rag, paper towel, Q-tips, clean it up real nice, and then just go ahead and put it back together. Call it a day. What we'll do, since we have it apart now, we'll go ahead and put it back together, okay? So I've started off with just keeping an eye on this nut for the front side of the shell here. And I start with the lid, okay? So you get your lid, the pin, and you just kind of preload that spring a little bit with your lid. Okay, check to make sure it functions, looks good. Make sure that pin's set all the way in there. That looks good. Now when you go to put your other shell half back on, you want to make sure that you have that nut in place here, all right? And on top of that, you also want to make sure that your battery cables are free and clear, right? You don't want to set that shell on there and then pinch them or just break them entirely. So just be careful of that whenever you're going to put it back together, all right? What I typically do is I'll kind of tuck those wires down inside the shell, just kind of like that. Just kind of like that right there. Tuck them down inside the shell. That way they're out of the way, okay? Same thing, we have these wires taped off. They're just taped off in a section to where they're not going to be pinched. Make sure that they're, free and clear and out of the way. All right. Then what we're going to do here is put that nut back into place. And then we're going to slide our shell back on. Okay. You want to make sure that the screws are lined up with the screw holes. Okay. And you're not forcing anything here. You also want to make sure that the pin for your lid slides into the receiving end of your shell. And then it's going to go together nice and smooth, just like that. Once you have it together, I always like to close the lid, holds everything together for you, okay? And then just go back through and tighten up your shell. Be careful when tightening these screws. They don't have to be super tight, all right? It's something that we see pretty often. The customer will take it apart, put it back together. They'll crank down on those screws really, really tight, and you'll hear a crack. Well, that crack is from you over-tightening the screws, so be careful of that. As soon as it starts to get tight, that's it. That's all you got to do. Don't go any tighter than that. Nice and snug. We'll go ahead and put the receiving end of our battery door on here. And this one's a little tricky. Got to get that lined up, that little tongue and groove lined up. Push your screw down in there just to get it started. And then go ahead and thread it in there. Now that we have that threaded in all the way, it's nice and secure, you can go ahead and dig your battery cable back out, all right? And then you're gonna go ahead and reattach your battery pack. Go ahead and tuck that back in there safely. Just kind of be mindful of the wires. You know, make sure that they're out of the way. They're not getting crushed by the battery pack. And then go ahead, take your foam block, drop that in place. We're gonna go ahead and put battery cover back on. Just push it down. And then you can make sure that latch is engaged. Give it a little pull. Go ahead and flip up the cover. Make sure your lid works. Okay. One thing I have seen too is if this top screw right here, if this is way too tight, your lid it's kind of restricted in the movement. So make sure that's not too tight. Go ahead and make sure it snaps. Turn it on. Make sure it functions. Go ahead and give me one spin. This sound sensitivity is adjustable, so if you're shooting a 98 custom, maybe have it on a lower sensitivity level. If you're shooting something like a Vanquish, maybe turn that sensitivity level up a little bit. And that's pretty much the basic disassembly and reassembly of the Empire HaloToo Loader system. If you have any other questions about the product, need an owner's manual or anything like that, you can visit us at paintballsolutions.com, or you can call us at our 1-800 number.